California is really, really super serious about tackling the issue of housing and the affordability of housing this time. They promise. They promise this time they are really, really serious. They're really tackling the issue. Let's get into the story.
It was a major day in the state capitol.
It was too urgent, too important to allow the process to unfold as it has for the last generation.
California's $320 billion budget is now law, but the process came with strings attached. Governor Gavin Newsom signed 2 major bills, but not without a controversial move, leaving environmentalists disappointed. ABC 10's Garshpal Sangha joins us in studio and looks at the law that, if not passed, could have derailed months of work. Garshpal.
Yeah, Laura, some called it a poison pill because the governor signed the budget last week, but he said his signature would be invalid if the lawmakers didn't make changes to CEQA. And tonight, he got his way.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pen to paper, Governor Gavin Newsom signed 2 bills, AB 130 and SB 131. They strip away key parts of CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, which for decades gave environmentalists and communities the power to block projects they disagreed with.
The most consequential housing reforms that we've seen in modern history in the state of California. Long overdue, absolutely.
Supporters say the changes are crucial to fast-track housing in a state with a severe shortage. The new law skips lengthy environmental reviews, making it easier to build housing in urban areas.
Saying no housing in my community is no longer state sanctioned. That is not allowed anymore in the state of California.
But
Whether you like it or not, we're going to shove housing down your throat. That's what Buffy Wicks is saying. Got Buffy Wicks, Oakland, State Representative Scott Wiener, who we all know. And they put all these guys investing back. I guess that shows you that these guys are ready to start working on housing. That's the image that they want to portray. But yeah, it's basically this argument of NIMBYism or YIMBYism that they're fine with. They want to shove housing in many places as possible. Now, I doubt where they live is probably going to be affected by this, so the housing and the congestion is not going to be shoved down their throats particularly. But you peasants, you better get used to this. They're going to start shoving housing down your throat, and it's going to be really congested in your neighborhood. So just get used to it.
process is what has critics worried. The governor threatened to block the entire budget unless CEQA was rolled back, a move some say undermined democracy.
It was a insistence upon the governor that the legislature do that, which I believe compromises the co-equal nature of the 2 branches.
Environmental groups like Sierra Club argue the reforms could allow projects harming wildlife and limiting public transparency.
It's sad to see the state legislature taking a page straight out of Trump's playbook and ramming through policy to tear apart CEQA through the budget process instead of the actual policy process.
Say that again? Taking a page out of Trump's playbook and ramming through to destroy CEQA. Hope this kid isn't a political science major, because that is a weak argument, my friend.
The governor insists it is not the end of CEQA, and the law won't be used to fast-track fossil fuel projects.
This was too urgent. This was too important to play chance. The world we invented has been competing against us. We have got to perform.
Now that reform takes effect in less than an hour. Now Democrats call it a balancing act between California's green values and a housing crisis. Laura.
And Garshpal Sangha reporting for us. Thank you.
CEQA. Let's start off here. CEQA, if you're not familiar with what CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act, passed back in the 70s, I believe, when Ronald Reagan was governor. The intent of it was to protect California environment so that we weren't building a ton of projects and ruining the environment. That was started back in the 70s. Since then, CEQA has become not necessarily a tool to protect the environment, but a way to shake down a lot of developers. And it's one way that the cost of housing gets so damn expensive here in the state is because it is so easy that if someone wants to build something, they can literally just go and file a lawsuit, and that lawsuit can then hold up the developer. So basically, it's a win by losing strategy. Basically, they file this lawsuit knowing they're going to lose. They don't care. They file the lawsuit, it gets tied up in court for 5 to 10 years. You know, it takes forever for these lawsuits to get through. And basically, they then go and hold ransom the project to the developers and say, well, we'll back off if you hire this person or hire this union and blah, blah, blah. Like, they get what they want. So developers who start to develop something and have these, you know, prospectuses, plans and business plans that they have laid out, and the numbers have all been crunched, then all of a sudden a CEQA lawsuit comes in, throws everything out the window. So that's the problem with CEQA. While I want to say I'm hesitantly happy that they are trying to cut away parts of CEQA, I will say this. There is one simple solution that California legislators just don't want to admit. And it is the simplest solution that could help with housing and a lot of projects here in California. And I'm going to say it very slow, so if there are any Democratic legislators in Sacramento happen to be listening to this, it's very simple. Pay attention. You can write it down. Scrap CEQA. Scrap it. Start all over. Just gut and get rid of the entire thing. Start all over. At this point, there are more holes in CEQA than Swiss cheese. There are so many exemptions and loopholes and carve-outs for CEQA. Just ban it. You know, just get rid of it. Right? Just write a law that says, a simple one-page law says, we completely and utterly repeal the California Environmental Quality Act. And then as you start to see fit, maybe if you want to reintroduce a new bill that's a little bit more reasonable, then maybe you could do that. But the simplest thing is scrap it. Just say it was wrong and it's gotten way out of hand and we just want to scrap the whole thing. But again, what's the golden rule, politicians, is that they never, ever, ever, ever admit that they were wrong, right? They never admit that they did anything wrong, that they supported CEQA in the past, so they're never going to completely scrap CEQA because they, in the end, don't want to admit that they were wrong. Now, there are these two bills. I'm going to read some of my notes about it. AB 130 exempts urban infill projects. So that basically means apartments, homes, mixed-use stuff from CEQA that they fit local zoning and avoid sensitive areas like wetlands. No more than 1,000-page studies, just a 30-day approval window. I had to look this up because I'm not a real estate developer. What is infill? An infill site has been, quote, previously developed for qualified urban uses or is adjacent to developed parcels. Qualified uses include any residential, commercial, public, institutional, transit, or transportation passenger facility, or retail use, or any combination of those uses, as well as some industrial uses. What does that mean? Those lots that you see in cities that are not being used, that are dead lots, they are now going to fast track building in those lots. So basically, it's urban building. There's going to be a lot of urban building. You're going to start seeing that. So in places like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you're going to start seeing these lots that were previously empty are now all going to start sprouting up with more housing or maybe some residential or commercial stuff. Basically, we're going to increase the density in these urban centers. So everybody wants the 15-minute cities, right? That's what they say. They want everyone in these 15-minute cities. They want everybody on public transportation. They don't want people in their cars. They don't want you to be independent. They're building and forcing a lot of people into these cities. So that's one thing. So they've exempted these projects in these urban places where it's these infill developments so that they can start to push people more into the city. So it's not suburban sprawl, but they're going to make it easier that you can start developing and not worry about CEQA or any of these CEQA lawsuits or studies so much. SB 131 streamlines CEQA for projects that miss full exemption by focusing only on specific issues, cutting lawsuit risks. Coastal zones also got easier permitting under the California Coastal Act, but streamlining doesn't guarantee homes get built. It still depends on local zoning and high interest rates and all that stuff. So that basically means that previously, if there was a lawsuit or there was something you missed or there was something wrong, it wasn't the whole project was held up, or now they're going to fix it so that the whole project isn't going to be held up. Basically, it's just one specific issue that you're going to have to fix. That's what it comes down to. So between these two, they are planning on building a lot more housing. Now, does it mean there's going to be more suburban housing? No. Does it mean it's going to be more apartments and stuff in downtown centers and urban centers? Yes, that's what it's going to mean. I personally, when I think of housing, maybe I'm old school or maybe I'm not thinking about this right, but I think of housing, I think of houses, not apartments that you're going to rent. I think of housing. And maybe they think if we just keep adding more and more units in these cities, that will make it easier for people to find affordable housing because they can then live in these downtown centers. I guess that's their strategy. Will developers get excited about this? Maybe. Maybe they'll see it as an opportunity that they want to build in these downtown areas. But there was something else. And unique to California is not only do they not want to admit that CEQA is a horrible bill and that they should just get rid of it altogether, one thing that California is known for, that when they need to solve a problem, what do? They create more government, right? It's always more government. More government is the solution. So as part of this whole reform that Gavin Newsom is rolling out, they've created a new agency on top of the, how many agencies? I don't know, 58, 75 or something. There's a whole ton of agencies, state agencies that are in California. They are now creating a specific housing agency to just tackle housing, as if there wasn't a housing agency before. And they think this will help streamline a lot of things with the state. It says supporters of the bureaucratic reshuffle say the move is long overdue, and surveys Californians regularly name housing costs and homelessness among the state's top concerns. That alone warrants the creation of a new cabinet-level advisor to the governor, said Ray Pearl, executive director of the California Housing Consortium, which advocates for affordable housing development, a cabinet-level secretary who will sit with other cabinet secretaries whose purview will be housing. That is elevating the agenda to the highest level. Pearl, like virtually every expert interviewed for this article about the new agency, described the reorganization as just the first step in bringing much-needed order and efficiency to California's network of funding programs for affordable housing. Quote, simply moving people around and giving them a new business card doesn't change the system. I would agree. I mean, creating more government and a new agency is the MO of California politicians, is that there is no problem too big that government can't solve. I mean, keep in mind, this is the same state government that believes that they can tax our way into better weather and to clean the air, right? That's their belief, is that they can tax and regulate their way into solving the weather problems. So I guess they think anything can be solved with more government. And now they've created a whole new agency. Will that new agency actually do what it needs to do? I don't know. And we have yet to see, and they want to make it sound like it's a great idea. But like every bureaucratic agency in California, it's probably going to get filled with a bunch of people who don't really care about getting the job done. It's probably going to be slow, inefficient, which is kind of the MO for a lot of agencies in Sacramento. So is it just moving the chairs around on the Titanic? What do they say? Moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic? Probably. I mean, it just makes it seem like there's not really any solution besides creating this new agency and more government for California. So with that all said, again, more government. Their solution is more government, more agencies. My solution is much simpler. Scrap it all. Start all over. Or don't start over at all. Just scrap CEQA and just be done with it. Because I've always said the one way you're going to get Government, the one way that government can help with housing is get the hell out of the way. That is the number one way government can help. That's it. That's really what it comes down to. Get out of the way, let people build housing, and be done with it. That's your solution. Stop trying to overthink it.